Kia ora tātou, nau mai haro mai ki tēnei whare, e raru I te maru o tēnei whare, ngā mihi nui ki ngā pai maunga, ki ngā mana whenua o tēnei rohe, ara ko te ati awa, ko taranaki whānui, ko Ngāti Toa rangatira, tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou. My name is Chelsea Grootveld. I am a board member of R McKenzie Trust, also privileged to be the chair of Te Kāwai Toro, the Māori Development Committee on R McKenzie Trust. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora everyone. So my name's John McCarthy. I am the manager of an organisation called the Tindall Foundation. My family come from an Irish tradition. I would call myself a Pākehā New Zealander, a non-Indigenous New Zealander, but born and grew up here. And really looking forward to this conversation with you, Chelsea. Yeah.
Now, this conversation is taking place in Aotearoa as part of the Alliance magazine's upcoming focus on Indigenous philanthropy worldwide. The first, I guess, discussion point is around how can non-Indigenous philanthropy support Māori aspirations?
You know, probably the first is, for me, through developing an understanding of what an Indigenous worldview is, and to be able to somehow find a way to enter that world and to understand it and be of use and be of value. To me, that seems to be the first thing. And then to use the platform, the influence, being practical, to use sometimes our money, to promote, to include and to show value to Indigenous ways of being and of doing things. So I think there's incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
And the challenge, I think, for us is that, you know, traditionally philanthropy has not been as accessible as it could be to Māori as potential applicants for money or for organisations that need money. And the challenge that I hear coming from Māori is that we need to look at how we decolonise our systems, our mindset, our structures, in order to be available and more useful to Māori. So I think we've got some work to do, but if we get that right, we can absolutely be of value and assist Indigenous groups.
Now, you raise a lot of awesome points in there, so I'll just pick up a few. And I guess if we start with decolonising our system, our thinking, our practices, and if you can speak to, I guess, the ways in which you've done that, what are the first steps?
Look, I think, to be honest, we're still learning those. Some of the ways I think that we have tried is to make our front door much more friendly, I suppose. Yeah. What does our front door look like? If we look like a front door that is only looks like Pākehā New Zealand, only looks like me, then, you know, we understand that's not a front door that's necessarily very friendly or even looks relevant to Māori. So having Māori staff, having Māori board members, having them clearly in a role which invites them to be our pathway for Indigenous organisations and groups to not just to come to us, but to facilitate our relationship. I mean, everyone says the first steps are about relationship building, and I totally agree. I think we've come to understand that there's a step before that, and that's about us being ready. In the philanthropic world, there's a lot of talk about whether the philanthropic organisation will trust a Māori organisation or group with its funding.
Yes.
And I think we need to flip that on its head. You know, the conversation when we're talking about philanthropy with Indigenous groups is not about whether we trust Māori, it's whether we are trustworthy to work with you. Two ways that we have tried to do that. One is we've really tried to understand our history. The colonial history of Aotearoa New Zealand has not been taught in our schools, not been accessible broadly across the population. So we've grown up in a society that believed that we had harmonious race relations, the most, harmonious race relations in the world.
Yeah, all the rhetoric.
You know, our history is still one of colonisation.
Absolutely.
And the kinds of issues that organisations and groups come to philanthropy about are often the result of colonisation, the loss of Māori economic base, language, culture, tradition, structures.
Which hasn't ended, actually.
Yeah.
Colonisation is a process that is still continuing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, the philanthropic conversation is part of, I think, a wider emerging conversation in Aotearoa New Zealand about how we might do that. So I think we've tried to prepare ourselves.
I think from an Indigenous perspective, that goes on both sides. So decolonising oneself doesn't just happen for non-Indigenous, it actually happens for Indigenous people too. So when we talk about decolonisation, it isn't just non-Indigenous, it's actually Indigenous peoples as well.
Yeah.
Just to acknowledge the journey you're on, but also that goes both ways. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
Oh, kia ora. So the other thing I was thinking about it is that our history, it's never not there. We don't meet on ground that is kind of, value-free. Yeah. There's something there that needs to be acknowledged. Absolutely. And it doesn't mean we can't work past that, but we just have to acknowledge it.
When we engage and we come together, whether it's for a board meeting, a funding meeting, whatever that is, within a Māori world, we set the scene. So absolutely, all of that is in the room. So it is those kind of the said and unsaid practices, what we bring, particularly for Māori, how we frame the discussions, and again it's that opening up so that our non-Indigenous peers and colleagues, we bring them on that journey and help them to understand that as well.
Yes. Māori bring things to the table, and I just want to reflect on that a bit from maybe from the perspective of traditional philanthropy, where it seems to me that philanthropy gives and others receive. I can't see it in that way, really, and certainly it's not my experience of working with Māori. It absolutely has to be a relationship of equality, and that Māori bring things that we learn from and benefit from. If the cause of the issues we're trying to deal with is colonisation, then the solution, it seems to me, is, as Māori say, is self-determination.
Absolutely.
So if we're really working from a model, a philanthropic model that supports self-determination, it isn't about a shared agenda, it's about Māori agenda.
Absolutely.
And what, it seems to me, and what can we do to kind of get alongside and support that?
Yeah. I'm interested in your thoughts around, you're on a journey towards that, still learning.
We're not there by some way.
But I guess, what are some ideas you might have to keep supporting your organisation to grow in that space?
So we're absolutely learning and certainly don't have all the answers. And it seems to me that you ask about, what we're learning about how to share power. Yeah. We'll learn that from experience. As a funder, groups and organisations won't challenge us because, there's a consequence to challenging a funder sometimes, which means next year's funding might not be there or, you need not apply or, the relationship might be at risk. And power can be used, in many ways, but let's at least acknowledge that it's there in the room. We've managed to use a little bit of money, a bit of influence, and, maybe a little bit of knowledge and connection and really then we've got to stand back. And,
and it's the standing back I'm interested in.
Get the hell out of the way.
And who makes that call? Your maturity as an organisation to know when it's okay for us to step back and also for your board to have assurance you've got this, you've got this partnership, you've got this relationship, and it's okay that we step back now. So I'm interested in that process and what happens behind the scenes, because it sounds great, but I know there must have been some pretty robust discussions. They don't happen quickly.
No, it is about taking time to build that relationship, it seems to me. And, so trust has developed, at times it might be a bit fragile because, as we've been saying, history's in the room. And I don't think we necessarily see it as relinquishing power, but at some level it is, because we do have this understanding that it has to, in the end, be authentically self-determining.
So we spoke about, John, why is it so important to support Indigenous models of philanthropy in the here and now?
Well, to me, again, without being critical, I think the traditional approaches of philanthropy so far, it's very much followed a kind of a Western, tradition. And the feedback that I continually get from Māori is that it's just not relevant to anything almost that they're doing. And so when I hear stories of Māori self-determination and kind of go, oh, what was the philanthropy contribution to that? It's like, what? There's no philanthropy contribution or even involvement in it. Here's good intention from the philanthropic world to support Māori. And there's Māori, meantime, just getting on with it.
Absolutely.
And we're just completely working past each other. If there is going to be an opportunity for collaboration, then we better crack on quickly because we're beginning to lose each other, it seems to me, in that. So,
absolutely. And I agree with you in the sense that some of the greatest Māori kaupapa have been delivered outside the system. And I think about our ancestors, our tupuna, and the history of innovation and entrepreneurship. And sometimes I think they'd be clipping our ears saying, what are you doing? Build strategic alliances. The power of two peoples coming together, is exponential. So in my mind, I think the opportunity that is there, and it feels like, well, I think if we position this within the context of climate change and everything that is happening to our environment, we have no choice but to work together. But work together in a way, as you said, that is mana enhancing, so is respectful, but also acknowledges the deep knowledge and connection that Indigenous peoples have to land, to the water, to the sky, to everything, and how that can support us all actually to thrive. And that conversation, particularly around what we are all experiencing with the climate, is so timely, is so relevant. And so there are benefits for us all, I think. And I just wanted to hear from you some more, and you have touched on this, the value proposition for non-Indigenous philanthropy and engaging in this space.
Yes. Well, I think there's benefits both as a philanthropic organisation. Again, we all want to feel like we're making a difference and not being irrelevant. There's a huge benefit for humanity, actually, just to stop and listen and learn from ancient wisdom. But I think, too, that, there is injustice that has caused the position that Indigenous people now find themselves in relation to non-Indigenous people in our country. So we need to address that. And philanthropy has the power. If it has the willpower, it has the power to begin to address that.
You raise a great point there around philanthropy, and if social justice is not the kaupapa or one of your focus areas, then that's a challenge. So and I'm stoked you brought that up, like particularly for R McKenzie Trust and our vision is socially just and inclusive Aotearoa. So that po of, it is unacceptable that modern day Aotearoa has such inequities across all indicators. There is such huge opportunity for us all to contribute to eliminating those inequities. So I think it's a privileged position to be in.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. I think that's probably us, John.
Thank you.
Unless there's anything else you want to
No, I'm good.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Lovely. It's so good chatting.
Yeah.